What's up YouTube, it's Mercury1. Today I'm talking about a card which we've recently got in Cosmo Blazer as a rare, and that card is Crimson Blader. This is originally a Tag Force 6 promo in the OCG that we've been waiting I think about a year or two for, and I think this card will be somewhat of a sleeper hit from the set. People have kind of just dismissed it because it's a synchro, but I think its effect is really quite good against a lot of the big hitters of today. It's a generic level 8 synchro. It's a fire warrior with 2/8 attack and 2/6 defense, so it's pretty big even for level 8. And its effect reads: if this card destroys an opponent's monster by battle and sends it to the graveyard, your opponent cannot normal or special summon level 5 or higher monsters during their next turn. I think the biggest deck that this will help against, for anything that can make it, is Mermail. If you beat over one of their Atlanteans or Undyne or whatever else, during their next turn, they cannot drop Moulin, Lead, Megalo, can't go into a Catastor or a Gungnir play. And if once this effect is activated, even if they pop it with an Atlantean during their next turn, they still can't special summon. As long as this was activated, the effect still applies if this leaves the field or is later negated by something. Obviously this only works on their turn, so if you beat over a Lind, they can still just chew out a Lead or Megalo from their deck. That's still perfectly fine, but this is 100 points bigger than Lead and 400 points bigger than Megalo, so they can't get over it anyway. Another interesting thing to note is that this does crash with Moulin, so they got nothing main decked that can go over this. One thing to note though, if this does crash and both monsters get sent to the graveyard, this effect won't activate. This has to remain on field and see the monster get sent to the graveyard in order to activate. Another thing to note is if you're siding Dimensional Fissure or Macrocosmos and you summon this and beat over something, the effect won't activate. It has to send the opponent's monster to the graveyard in order to activate. But then again, if you've got a 2/8 beater out along with D-Fissure or Macrocosmos, you should be in a fairly good position anyway. Other decks which are still roaming around that this helps against are things like Agents. This is bigger than Hyperion. You can just beat over Hyperion or Venus or whatever else, and they won't be able to drop their Hyperions, their BLSs, their Christias. It's slightly less good against Agents because it can't be over BLS and it crashes again with Christia, which will just go to the top of the deck anyway, but it's still a worthwhile thing to go into. Dark Worlds, this stops them just bringing out Grapha every turn, and if they don't have gates up, this beats over Grapha. Similarly, it stops Fire Kings, because a lot of the structure deck bosses seem to be 2/7, so this just beats over it by 100 points and stops them from coming out, which is nice. Also, it's bigger than Priestess, so you can beat over Priestess assuming they don't have a Star Hole with a bajillion counters on it, and then they can't drop another one next turn, which might be good considering Prophecies are getting Divine Judgment in, the name will come to me in a minute, a Lord of Tachyon Galaxy, which is the next set, which will be in 3 months, just in time for UK Nats, which I think they'll probably do well in. Obviously this doesn't do anything against Xyz plays, or at least rank 4 or lower Xyz plays. So this wouldn't have been very good against wind-ups, but come March 1st they're not as much of a problem anyway. Another thing that's just sprung into mind, which should have come into my mind a bit earlier, is this is like pretty okay against gadgets as well, because you can beat over gadgets fairly easily, and then they can't drop Fortress. So, yeah. And also Frog Monarch. But yeah, just my little ramble on Crimson Blader. If you don't have one of these, I recommend picking one up. They're not exactly the most expensive card in the world. And if you're running, say, Flamvels of Fire Kings, Frog Monarch, plants, anything that can synchro summon 8s easily, I think this is definitely worth a spot in your extra deck. This has been Uzmak Kunai 1, signing out.